Do you ever wonder why you're doing what you do in life? Do you wish that you could be really happy and passionate about what you do? Or maybe you already are and you want to expand in a different direction. Hi, I'm Barbara Ann, host of What the Why? I love what I do. A lot of that has to do with my story, my journey to this point in life. And guess what? Everybody has a story. So please join me for conversations with leaders from all walks of life about what they do, and more importantly, why they do it, how they found their core purpose, their passion, their mission in life. And if you're looking for your own, maybe you'll get some great suggestions on how you too can find your why. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of What the Why, the podcast. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured out that's what they were meant to do. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, whether it's in your job, your company, or even in your life. All of our guests have something in common with you. They either felt or feel similarly, and they're doing something about it. And today is a very unique exception. Joining with me are three amazing women, and I'm super excited to announce that you're looking at the leadership team of PRECISIONMED Credentialing and Billing Solutions. That's right. 4 women came together to fill a need that we saw, and we are super excited to officially announce that. I'm going to have each one of them introduce themselves in a second. But PRECISIONMED Credentialing and Billing Solutions started out as the brainchild of Lynette Keaton, who then came to me, who then went to Lisa Hillerin, who then brought in Brianna Brown. And we're in a span of 5 months standing up a company that goes soft launch on August 11th. So super excited to talk to these amazing women who have pulled off the seemingly insurmountable. So without further ado, join me in welcoming Lynette Keaton, CEO, Brianna Brown, COO, Lisa Hillerin, you are Chief Training and Development Officer, and rounding out the team is Barbara Ann, Chief Engagement and Strategy Officer. So, woohoo! Yay! Welcome to the show. All right. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with CEO and founder Lynette Keaton. And Lynette, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you wanted to be as a child?
Okay, well, I started out in home health care, which I really and truly loved. Then went on to infusion and sat down with Barbara Ann and circled back around, and that's how we made it here. And when I was a child, some parts of me wanted to be a physician for a while. Then some parts of me wanted to be an attorney for a while. And then I finally ended up in Rutgers University and getting my degree in accounting.
You rock.
Oh, thank you.
Now the world's going to know it too. So we're going to bring it over to Brianna Brown, and she's going to tell us about her background and what she wanted to be as a child, especially since I loved her answer so much.
Hi, I'm Brianna Brown. I've been in health insurance for 25 years. Before health insurance, I was actually an architectural drafts person, specializing in residential restoration architecture. So we worked primarily on historic homes. The market crash in 1998 pushed me into a different industry altogether, and I actually answered an ad in the newspaper for call center, member services call center representative for the biggest health insurance carrier in the state of New Jersey. And from there, I basically learned all things operations. I got where I am today because I believed that from a health insurance payer perspective, we had a unique opportunity to really drive optimal patient outcomes through a patient-centric and provider-partnered approach. In the last quarter century, I've seen a lot. I've worked for a lot of different plans, and I do believe that that we're on the precipice of major change in the healthcare space in a good way. I think that with any growth, it's going to be a little rocky, but I think we're going to be good. And probably not coincidentally, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a bubble. Um, Just awesome. I've lived true to that form, obviously in a more, appropriate manner, not afraid to try new things, floating from one thing to another in a curious way. So, but yeah, so.
That's
mm.
awesome. Okay, now for those of you who've been watching the show for the first 3 seasons when it was still a television show, you may or may not remember Lisa Hillerin because she's a two-time. She's now a three-peat. So yay! So Lisa Hillerin talked about her journey, then talked about the change in her journey, and now Lisa, tell us about again who you are. And since you were literally the person who started the concept of asking, what did you want to be when you grew up? Tell us what you wanted to be when you grew up.
Sure. Thank you, Barbara Ann. So when I wanted to know what I wanted to do when I grew up, I really initially didn't know, but I knew I wanted to help people. I wanted to help them either by physically helping them, emotionally helping them, spiritually, in many different forms. I didn't have a set path, but as I grew, it became more known to me that I wanted to help them live their best lives. And in two main ways I've done that. One is helping them with emotional intelligence, and the other is through healthcare. And in this, where we're at with our new business, which I'm so excited about, I have the opportunity to meld both of those passions. So again, when I was a child and growing up, I knew I wanted to help people. I didn't know exactly how. And I've since, because I've gone through all these journeys of learning about emotional intelligence, sharing that, being in healthcare, helping people with Medicaid, helping people with Medicare, helping people in the commercial, doing operations, doing call center, doing training, all of those areas all help. So that has fulfilled me as a person.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. Awesome. And hey, for those of you who don't know me, other than as the host of What the Why, Barbara Ann Gardenhire Mills, lots of initials behind my name that are easily found on LinkedIn. I've been working in community and economic development for over 30 years, and but have also worked in insurance, which is how I met Lisa. We have a relationship that goes back almost, oh my gosh, 19 years. And I've actually talked about her, and actually I've talked about Lena too on other podcasts about these amazing people, and getting to meet Brianna was so amazing. And what brought me to this table is Lynette is correct. We've done work on other things, and I've been happy to support her in some of those efforts. And she'd be like, well, would you like to partner on this? I'm like, I don't know. Would you like to partner on this? I don't know. And then when she told me about her idea for Precision Med, after your own personal experiences, being on the other side, being on the billing and the credentialing side, and recognizing it's time to do something better, I was like, you know what? Now that's something I would be interested in getting involved in. And coincidentally, one of the members of my own team, when she told me that a friend of hers was hired by a doctor in February, only to have to lay all the employees off on May 31st, so they didn't know how to run a medical practice, that's when I really knew, okay, this is something special that I definitely want to be a part of. Because I think it was Lynette, you said, or Brianna, you said there's still opportunity, and there's so many changes coming into healthcare so quickly. And we are filling a very specific void that even people we've talked about partnering with has said, oh my gosh, you need this boy, can we list you? Can we share your information? So, um, and I kind of hinted at it, and you already hinted at it a little bit as well. Um, but what told you, you know what, I got to do this. I've been on this side. This got to change. What prompted you to decide, and I'm going to do it?
So everybody that knows me knows that infusion is my passion. So I decided to take infusion and go to Arizona with it, where I really saw a need. I saw that as being an opportunity for me when I retired to stay there, but I still wanted to have something to do. Even if I sold everything else off, I wanted to keep the businesses in Arizona, and it was definitely going to be infusion. So I built a state-of-the-art ambulatory care infusion center in Phoenix. And so, we learn from our mistakes. And so the thing that hurt me the most was not being totally credentialed with insurance companies and then finding a really good billing company that wasn't trying to gouge you and take all the money that you were making. And so I realized that the issues that I was having at the infusion center was mainly those two areas right there. So it just seemed like everybody that I hired to help do the credentialing, they started out good and then kind of fizzled off, and they weren't good. They wouldn't return your phone calls. They talked to you like you were beneath them. And I just couldn't get where I needed to be with the credentialing. Billing, besides us, I only know one other really good billing company, but the lady that owns that her fees are astronomical. And so I always said that, from talking to people that are in the same industry, I said, man, we have to really, find something different, come up with something different. And I'm always picking Barbara Ann's mind and her brain and, bouncing stuff off of her. And I just felt like now would be a really, really good time, because what I realized is that if I didn't find a good credentialing and billing company, that I was not going to be able to succeed and move any further. And so I took that ideal to Barbara Ann, who's also my / business consultant, to run that ideal past her and see what she thought. And so, but mind you guys, I've been talking to her about this probably for maybe about a year or more, right?
You've brought it up a couple of times, but
Yeah.
really, really pitched it to me. I'm going to say it was around February, March timeframe when you were like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I've got another member of my team who I know that's an expert in health, and she's worked for multiple carriers. I'm like,
Mhm.
we got to bring her in.
Mhm.
And that's how Lisa got invited to the
Exactly.
table.
Mhm.
And I knew that I was frustrated. I was very frustrated. I knew my business wasn't going to succeed unless I found somebody in these two areas. And then after a while, looking for a year or more, trying to find a good credentialing company, then taking it on myself, I just realized that if I have to do it myself, this is something that I could do in a business and really, really help people and give them good quality service. I mean, I want to bring excellent quality service to people for the credentialing and the billing. And so I told Barbara Ann that, okay, listen, I'm doing this now. Now I just need you to help me get everything set up because I'm doing this. And then she was like, okay, well, I think I'd like to do this with you. This is something I'd be interested in. And I was so excited. I finally took something to her that appealed to her, and she was ready to jump on board. So I was actually happy about that because I always wanted to do something with her anyway.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that if this was going to be a success, it's interesting because Lisa had introduced me to Brianna previously, and we had had a more of an entrepreneurship conversation. But I always knew that wasn't going to be the end of the relationship, even though she was talking to me about something that was going to be in Kentucky. And so when I went to Lisa and I was like, okay, here's what Lynette wants to do. I want to be in. I think we need you. And of course, then Lisa said, well, if you need me, you need Brianna even more. But Lisa, I want to start with Lisa. What prompted you to say yes to me, um, and your interest in why you wanted to be part of making this happen?
Sure. A lot of what I've seen in my current role, I work in the grievance and appeals department, and I see the frustration day in and day out of both providers and members of trying to get paid and paid the right rate for their services. And I'm seeing more and more of the individual independent doctors or independent providers feeling like they either have to go out of business or join a big facility or a big conglomeration, which they don't want to do. I want to be able to help them maintain that independence. I want to have members get the medicine and the things that they need to live their best lives. So it really excited me that we could help in their payment and their credentialing, these independent, so that, and all of them actually, but starting with the independent, there's so much need there, so they can focus on giving the best health care to their patients.
Mhm. And so you then say, well, you gotta have to have Brianna. We have to have Brianna.
Mhm.
So Brianna, who's met me once, who's never met Lynette before, and now you guys talk like constantly. Brianna, when Lisa approached you with this, what were your thoughts about it?
I was actually really excited. Lisa and I've trauma bonded at our previous employer. And Lisa actually is the greatest friend I've ever had from work. And I'm one of those people that separate work and personal life very distinctly, because I like to keep the separation. But Lisa was probably the first and greatest friend I've ever made at work, where I felt comfortable to cross the streams, so to speak, and have her be a part of my personal life too. So when she approached me, I was super excited, because any opportunity I have to work with Lisa, I seize it first and foremost. Second, I knew if Lisa was excited, that this was the real deal, because she has such a genuine approach to life. Like, her emotional intelligence, I far and above outweighs any skill set I have in that area. So when she's excited, I know it's for good reason, and she's measured all the metrics and weighed all the, pros and cons. And and having met you that first time too, I was like, this is going to be a powerhouse team. And I was super excited about it. Also, like Lisa, I come from the claims area of health insurance. And I was a call center agent for years. Used to do executive appeals. So when members would write to our VPs, senior VPs, CEOs, the frustration and the anger is almost palatable. And then you couple that with the fact that most providers have the same frustrations, just maybe from a different perspective, but they don't have nearly the resources available at the payer level. So for example, members have dedicated call center not lines that they call depending on their health insurance. Providers get one phone number, and that's across all plans. So if you're a major payer and you offer 50 to 60 different lines of product, that provider only has one point of entry from a call center perspective. So that's a bottlenecked process. Couple that with the fact that roughly 65% of claims that are submitted are denied due to coding errors. And then you're looking at roughly like 58% never get resubmitted. So those providers are leaving at the end of the year. They could be leaving upwards of like several $1,000,000 on the table with the payer, because they don't have the resources to fight that fight. And it ultimately, I don't care what line of business you're in, when you have a provider group or practice that's struggling to keep the lights on, that patient care is going to suffer. So, you know what I mean? So and it's an unintended consequence, because every physician, nurse, practitioner, you name it, that I've known throughout my life, all they want to do is make people feel better, or help them through a specific, a certain, point in their life where they really need that all hands on deck approach from a medical care perspective. And if you're a provider who genuinely loves what you do and loves your patients, but you're having to figure out, how do I keep the lights on, and you're having to make those decisions, ultimately hurt your business, it's not going to be a good outcome. And I knew that Lisa and you, and then when I met Lynette, I knew this was the team that not only knew the industry as well as, if not better than me, but had that same ethical and moral approach to healthcare, I knew this was going to be a game changer. I really, and I feel it in my
We're the
bones.
dream team.
Yes, yes, Lynette, that's right.
And you're right, because it's
Michael
been
Jordan.
yeah.
I'm Scottie Pippen.
Right. And what's so interesting about all of it is we all have these skill sets. You know, like it's been really fascinating, like especially when you and Lynette and even Lisa were having some of those initial conversations, there were things that you were talking about that were like an entirely different language. Right. But then when we looked at the software that we would be using, I was like, I know this software. I've been working on this type of programming for like upwards of almost 20 plus years.
Mhm.
This is just a different way
Yeah.
of a different product, but the same software, the same process, the same everything else. And, you know, and watching Lisa have conversations about what we need when we have a call center, but watching Lynette have conversations about ordering of medications and all the different potential partners that we could reach out to. And then for the medical professionals out there watching, when I go into certain meetings, the minute I say EVV, which for those of you who don't know stands for electronic visit verification, you can tell who the medical professionals are in those meetings because they
Yeah.
all go,
Yeah, the collective sigh of disgust
Yes.
is audible.
Yes.
who wants to explain? Because Lynette, you've been on one side of it, and Brianna, you've been on the other side of it. So
Mhm.
we've got people here who've been on both sides of that. So Lynette, what's it like as a provider to be on the provider side of trying to manage that system?
I was in the trenches with this EVV stuff. And let me tell you, when you get to be of a particular age, trying to learn something new, like the new EVV stuff, is so difficult, so difficult. And at first, I used to be embarrassed because I felt like I wasn't picking it up like I should have. But then I met so many people that couldn't pick it up as well, like I wasn't comprehending. And I just thought this was the dumbest thing that they could have ever done. And when I found out that Mark Beata was the one that helped to create this stuff, I told him this was the stupidest thing he could have ever done in his whole entire life. Like you couldn't think of anything else to do with all that money that you have. You couldn't think of anything else to do besides create an EVV. And so I was so frustrated. It was horrible, horrible. So being on the other side of it was crazy. And really, I have a great appreciation for Brianna because you were in the trenches of it and you helped to implement it. And you know EVV like the back of your hand. That right there tells me how smart you are, because I am like this EVV stuff even still today. When people start talking to me about EVV, even though I have a better knowledge of it, I am still lost.
Yeah.
And I am just like, and it seems like it just gets crazier and crazier and more and more and more. It just gets harder and harder to learn and harder to understand. And I'm like, okay, there has to be something going on here. And so I know what I went through, how much help other people need. And so I look forward to all of us being able to help those other people as well who went through the same stuff that I went through. And I was ready to just like bow out gracefully from home healthcare just because of EVV. So it can really be something.
Brianna, you've been on that other side
Mm-hmm.
in terms of, you know, being the one that everybody's upset with.
Yes. Firsthand.
So what's that been like? I mean, we're thrilled you have this expertise, but you've had your challenges with it too.
Yeah, like any area of expertise, it's not going to be without your, bumps, scrapes, and scars. But for me personally, so EVV is relatively new in terms of like how the payers implemented it. And it was brought in by CMS, or Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, back in 2016, thanks to the 21st Century CARES Act. And they went about it relatively directly, which is unique for CMS. CMS is, usually like they're just like, yeah, let's do all these things and like you guys will figure it out because 50 states of awesome. But what really happened was what began as an attempt to limit fraud, waste, and abuse at the home health and personal care service level, because that's what unfortunately happens when you render care in a member's home. It's just you and the member. If you have a nonverbal member or somebody who's, medically, ill, or it's incredibly disadvantaged medically and economically, right? Like there's a multi-factor, impacts here. Not everybody's honest. So what started off as an attempt to, prevent fraud, waste, and abuse, turned into kind of like a circus act. So like, for example, one of the things CMS required was a member signature that services were rendered, which is pretty integral to the whole prevention of fraud, waste, and abuse. They removed that requirement in 2018. So I don't even understand why they have this in place. Because if the member doesn't have to validate that they got the care, what are we even doing? So take how convoluted everything is. Every state implemented it differently because, again, you're looking at 30,000-foot like metric in terms of implementation. Provider impact was inevitable. And the number of small home health agencies that have gone out of business since the inception of this program is nothing short of disastrous. And then when you deal with, marginalized, low economic capability, you have folks who have genetic disease. They have, diseases due to, cultural impact, lifestyle impact, that are in desperate need for medical care. And they're in a rural area. And now what was once a pool of like 100 home health agencies, now 25 home health agencies. I mean, the supply isn't going to meet the demand, inevitably. And then it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter for them to be able to manage. So for me personally, that was my driver, was just like the small mom and pop shops of the world that need that direction and understanding it. I made it my mission to learn it and be able to decode it so that I could talk about it in layman terms.
Right. And, and it's interesting because you'd think, okay, if there's an error on the claim submission, the company will just tell you, but they can't. And so, Lisa, I know that you've bumped up against that frustration from people as well. Help people understand, because they're like, well, why doesn't they just tell them what's wrong?
Right. We can't tell them how to bill. That's the challenge. We're not allowed to tell them how to bill. We can tell them to send in a corrected claim. But if they don't know what's wrong, they don't know what to do to fix it. And then with EVV, there's another complication that Brianna had brought up to me before that I didn't know, is that you have to put it into the system in a certain order. And if you don't put it in a certain order and you get things out of order, it's not going to go through either. So that's double the complication. So it's very, very frustrating for providers. They think they're putting in the right codes. They think they're doing everything right, and the system's spitting it out. And you have to understand, so many of these claims are adjudicated by a computer. They're systemically adjudicated. And sometimes systems are systems, computers are computers. They might have a coding error and a configuration error in it, which compounds the issues as well.
Enter PRECISIONMED credentialing and billing solutions, because we've talked a lot about the billing part. There's also the credentialing piece, as Lynette touched on. So as we start to wrap up, Lynette, one of the things you mentioned was a challenge was even getting credentialed with the companies in a timely manner to then have claims that you could submit for reimbursement. So help the people who are watching understand, because I know we've seen it. I mentioned earlier that we had the doctor who opened in February, nice office, nice town, thinking all was going to be great, didn't make it past May 31st. Probably because they thought things were going to move at a different pace than they actually did. And so help the world, the tens of people, no, the thousands of people, the audience watching, what it was like for a provider, because so many have just quit. and you stuck it out, stuck it out, stuck it out where others didn't. What was that like for you to go through?
I mean, I had my challenges, but I had a good friend who was also in the healthcare business who said to me, go ahead and take the patients while you're going through the credentialing process. Take the patients anyway. Let them be seen. And then you bill, when you're done being credentialed, you bill the ones that you can bill. And then some of them you might take a loss on money, but at least you're building up your patient volume. And so that was pretty tough for me because I lost a lot of money because no matter what, I still had to purchase these medications and do all that stuff. And along with the credentialing, there's another piece to the credentialing, which is contracting, which is a very, very, very vital, important part to the credentialing, because you need that in writing for them to know and for you to know how much it is that your reimbursement should be for. Because a lot of times we did a lot of the billing stuff and we got way less than what we were supposed to be paid. And that was because I didn't have all my contracts in place. So along with the credentialing, the contracting is also just as important, if not more. And what I also learned, if I had it to do all over again, is I would take the time, get the credentialing done, which could take anywhere from 30, 60, 90 days. Get it all done before I even actually opened up my door. So I've learned some lessons, and credentialing is just as vital, if not more important than the billing, because you can't do the billing if you're not credentialed with the payers. So it's very important. It was something I had to really learn. It was very hard, and I lost hundreds and thousands of dollars. And I still have claims coming in that were denied that I have to send out disputes for and do all that stuff. So yeah, so it's something. It is really something.
Yeah.
And I do feel really bad for the physicians that get into it. They get into it for all the right reasons and end up bowing out for all the crazy reasons. And those are all the people that I want to help.
Which is actually a really great note to end on, because I was going to say, that's why we're here.
Mhm.
So for those of you who are watching, for those of you who've just stopped taking insurance or gone concierge, or you're literally, a friend of mine who's a therapist works for copays,
Mm.
because it's just like, you know what, I've established, I'm, you know, independently comfortable, so I'll just work for the copays rather than pay somebody to do it, because it wasn't worth, he wasn't getting enough
Mhm.
back. But that's a solution that we solve. You don't have to hire your own team. We're your team. We're here for you when you need us.
We are.
And we want to make sure that we're taking care of those who take care of us. So, does anybody have any additional parting thoughts as we wrap this up? I'll go in reverse. Lisa?
Just very, very excited. Again, just another movement forward in helping people and helping them avoid the pitfalls that I've seen and experienced personally. So super excited about helping people and working with this amazing team.
All right. Brianna?
Sorry, I couldn't get off mute. I'm ready to get to work. And like you said, we work for you. There's a lot of people I think out there that could really use our guidance, our inputs, and our willingness to get her done. So I'm ready to get to work.
All right. And Lynette, the brainchild behind all of it.
I am excited. I know that there are hundreds of people that can utilize our service and need our help. And I'm just ready to jump out there and help and make a change. And hopefully eventually we'll be able to take a trip to Washington, D.C. to sit down with CMS. So I am going to put all that together for us as well, so we can help them to make a change as well.
Yeah. And I'm excited to be part of what will hopefully be a movement and a shift, because this industry is about to pivot in ways, you know, we've gone back and forth between administrations, Affordable Care Act, and not, then yes, then no. And so we're at the precipice. And it is only, to quote a very bad movie that I love so much, The Day the Earth Stood Still, it is only at the precipice that we find the will to change. And I really believe that each one of you and myself combined together, we're going to help foster that change.
Mhm.
So thank you so much, our audience doesn't really know what it took for each of us to even make this happen with some of the things that are going on. But we are launching soft launch on August 11th. So if you want to learn more about us, you can find our website, www.PRECISIONMEDCBS.com. And that will also be in the notes and the comments sections wherever you watch this podcast. And as you can see, I keep saying that my guests get more and more and more amazing, and these women are right up there. And so thank you so much for watching. You have so many viewing choices, and if you are benefiting from this, or if you know a medical provider who can benefit from this information, please share this with them, because we're trying to reach as many medical providers as we can so that we can at least maintain who we have, as well as help the next generation that's coming up through the system. So please, thank you again, and please share. And also, never forget, whether you're looking to make changes in your life, no matter how big or small, join us again for more illuminating, informative, and even inspirational conversations with guests such as Lynette and Brianna and Lisa, who've overcome some really phenomenal challenges in their lives, but we'll have to talk about in future podcasts. More importantly, they overcame them for all of us to come together and find this purpose and live it.